Big wins, high visibility, the kind of momentum every founder wants. It's not just luck. It's not just working harder, and it's definitely not doing everything yourself. When we scaled to over 1,500 clients, ran more than 100 interviews a day, and built a global assistant network, I learned it the hard way. Success comes down to delegation. But not just dumping tasks, designing systems that work without you. In this video, I'll break down how elite operators delegate. From documentation to systems to outcomes that don't bounce back into your inbox. Section 1. They document before they delegate. Delegation isn't just handing something off. It's transferring context without transferring chaos. If I could give one piece of advice to any new client, it would be this. Document before you delegate, because unclear input leads to unreliable output every time. The top 1% don't wait until they're overwhelmed to build structure. Create visibility before there's a problem. And that's what creates leverage. Documentation isn't about creating complexity. It's about making sure what's obvious to you is obvious to your team. Here are a few tools we see high leverage clients use over and over again. The best documentation lives where the work happens. You don't need a separate manual, just link the playbook to the task. At Wing Assistant, we use Discord, which is very similar to Slack. So if we have a new policy, we just use the pin button to pin this policy for everyone to access at any time. Very simple, very easy. You don't need to write a 20-page handbook. Just ask yourself, if I had to leave for a week, could someone else follow this? If the answer is no, you don't have leverage yet. Once it's visible, it can be improved, and eventually it can run without you. Section 2. They build repeatable systems, not one-off fixes. The difference between average and elite delegation: the average operator fixes problems. The top 1% builds systems so those problems don't come back. If I had to delegate something more than once, I wouldn't just pass it off again. I'd build a system that removes me completely. Hey, can you send this weekly report again? Automated reminder, pre-built template, pre-filled doc, review checklist. Top performers don't just delegate tasks, they delegate workflows. A reporting task becomes a Google Sheet with dynamic inputs and a template. A calendar handoff becomes an assistant-managed availability system in Calendly. A lead generation process becomes a Zapier CRM assistant verification pipeline. A weekly update becomes a reusable Notion card with instructions plus owner. If you've done it twice, systemize it. Coming back to you, you didn't build it right yet. Tools that better help build systems. Notion, or SOP libraries plus recurring workflows. Zapier or Make to automate triggers between apps. Wing task boards, pre-built templates for weekly rhythms. For structured data and tracking ownership. Google Sheets plus AppScript. Lightweight, automatable logic. You don't need fancy software. You just need the discipline to solve it once, then never again. Systems create predictability. Predictability creates trust. And trust, that's when you can finally step back. Section 3. They delegate outcomes, not instructions. Follow these steps exactly. Here's what success looks like. Get us there. The top 1% don't just delegate tasks, they delegate ownership. When you hand them a result to achieve, you're giving them agency. And that's where real leverage comes from. This shift from steps to outcomes changes everything. Your assistant stops being a task taker and starts thinking like an operator. The psychology behind outcome delegation. There is strong research to back this up. Studies show that when people are given responsibility for outcomes, not just activities, they experience something called psychological ownership. In one study published in the Journal of Organizational Behavior, researchers found that outcome-based delegation increases autonomy, engagement, and intrinsic motivation, all of which directly correlate with stronger performance. And another study in the Academy of Management journal found that empowered team members aren't just motivated, they're more creative, proactive, and committed to solving the right problems. When you delegate an outcome, you're giving someone permission to care. And when people care, they do better work. How to delegate outcomes the right way. Instead of micromanaging steps, top operators define the destination. Set just enough guidance to make the route clear. Tasks tell people what to do. Outcomes tell them what matters. And that clarity leads to care, which in turn leads to better execution. You don't need more steps, you need stronger outcomes and a team that's trusted to reach them. Section 4. They stay engaged without micromanaging. Confusion, late replies, unclear task notes, passive assistant. Structure, assistant adds proactive status notes, comments clarified, task owner confirmed. The final difference between average delegators and the top 1%, it's not what they hand off, it's how they stay connected after they do. Poor delegation tends to land in one of two extremes. Either the founder disappears and expects magic, or they hover over every message and edit every move. The top 1% operate differently. They build trustable systems, then guide with light, intentional feedback. These tiny cues let you stay in sync without staying in their inbox. Why it works. There's a psychological layer here too. When assistants know they can surface blockers without being judged, they speak up early, fix faster, and grow sharper. And when founders stay engaged with purpose, not with pressure, delegation becomes a rhythm, not a risk. Bonus, light touch tracking tools. Notion, weekly sync notes linked to taskboard. Slack plus status emoji. Done in progress meets review. Google Form. End of week assistant check-in. What went well? What needs improvement? Where do I need clarity? You don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be predictably present. Micromanaging kills momentum. Vanishing kills trust. But engagement, structured, consistent, intentional, that's where leverage lives. And that's what the best operators know. Your assistant isn't just helping you work, they're helping you think at scale.